clock strikes 6:30, babe. Time to head for golden lights. Hey, it's a good time for the great taste dinner at McDonald's. It's Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
We only have one game to talk about this show, and it is a Siena game against Canisius. So we might as well just get into it and talk about that first, as I do have other things planned for the jam-packed show we have coming your way. So the Saints snapping a 7-game losing streak at the Kessler Athletic Center, a place they have not won at since 2016, beating the Canisius Golden Griffins 66-53. Canisius unfortunately falling to 0-10 in the MAAC conference. Our player with the highest points, Justice Schultz, he had 18, 14 for Major Freeman, 17 for Brendan Coyle, just shy of a double-double for the game. He had a season-high 17 points, powered by a career-high tying 5 threes, as well as a career-best 9 rebounds. Not putting the rant button on here, but just a fact, Canisius is one of the worst rebounding teams in the country, according to the NCAA rankings. The Griffs were showing it during the game as they were not able to get a lot of the rebounds, and a lot of the balls were decided at the turnover. Canisius did answer in the first half thanks to some scores by Paul McMillan IV, their leading scorer. McMillan entered play averaging 18.9 points per game and the second leading scorer of the MAAC. The second half was much stronger to the Saints. They had an 8-point spurt over 91 seconds to open an 11-point lead at the midway mark, and then they also prevented Canisius from shooting a lot of their three-pointers. And our play of the game, and also a player spotlight on Devin Bradford, the 7'1" freshman from North Carolina. Bradford was put into the game after Peter Carey complained about his knee hurting, as well as Miles Wilmoth, who was having some shoulder problems. And when Bradford came in, he scored his first basket of the season officially when he did this.
Got really good minutes out of Devin Bradford today. He had the putback dunk. He's been working hard. You can see it happening in practice for him.
Joe steps through. Can't finish, but there the follow. Jamming it home, Devin Bradford. And a timeout called by Canisius.
And it's great to see a freshman who is the tallest player on the team use his position to his advantage. And I think Bradford could be a useful player on the court should he decide to stay at Siena for his next 4 years. For our final takeaway, I'm going to let Sean Cunningham talk about this one.
Pretty big milestone for them as well during the first 10 games of the GMAC era. They have started the season 5-5, already one more win than they had last season. So a lot of good, positive play to come out for the Saints so far, and we'll see how it continues the rest of the season for them.
And, you know, I've already talked about Canisius at length before about them being winless so far. They are just one of a few winless teams in the country right now. But I also have to cut them some slack because their new coach, Jim Christian, does have some college coaching experience. He is the 25th head coach in Canisius history, replacing Reggie Witherspoon, whose contract was not renewed. Christian was part of the Kent State Golden Flashes on and off. He was the assistant coach there for 2 seasons. He also made the trip over to Albany in March of 2023 when the Golden Flashes were in March Madness. Unfortunately, they lost in the first round to Indiana. From 2014 to 2021, he was the head coach at Boston College, where he brought the Eagles to a 19-win season and the NIT. He also coached at The Ohio University, and they also went to the NIT as well. While in college, he played for the University of Rhode Island and brought the Rams to the Sweet 16. Especially when you have ACC levels on your resume, I think that Jim Christian does have a shot at taking Canisius back into the MAAC. It's just that this is not the season right now. And who knows, maybe eventually Jim Christian's name will be back on the NCAA tournament screens in the near future. Gerry McNamara, of course, as well. He's also hoping the Saints can get a berth in the tournament. And it's still way too early to decide who's going to get to the top of the MAAC, but this leads me to my next part of the show, as we will be talking extensively about the MAAC as it just finished up its first weekend of conference play on the men's side.
Ben, guess what?
What?
Sam got a new phone.
Oh my God, Sam got a new phone.
A new phone, people. Look out. His content's going to be 10 times better. Make sure to hit that subscribe. And like that page, baby. Like that page. Let's go, Sammy Slice.
Let's go. Boom.
Once again, Sam got a new phone. Watch out for the content. 10 times better. Hit that like. Hit that what, Ben?
Subscribe.
Yes, Ben. Hit that subscribe, man.
Let's do it.
Let's go, Sammy Spice. We'll see you guys in 2025. Let's go, Birds.
Woo!
All right, I am joined by Sean Cunningham. How we doing, buddy?
Doing really well. Thank you for having me on.
MAAC championship. We say it every day in our group chat, every day in our huddles. MAAC chip, MAAC chip, MAAC chip. So that's what we're going for.
We are now a month into the basketball season. The MAAC has just started competition. The opening weekend had just concluded. And we are going to take a look at the MAAC preseason coaches poll and then see how it is faring out 1 month in.
That's right. So to start off this season, we had for the top 3 teams in the preseason coaches poll, this is from the TimesUnion.com, Quinnipiac, Marist, and Iona were ranked as the top 3 teams to start things off. So out of the 3 teams that were predicted in the poll so far, Marist and Quinnipiac are currently both 2-0, and Merrimack is the 3rd slot as well, also 2-0. And as for Iona, they are 1-1 in MAAC play, currently 3-8 overall, but there's still a lot of games to go. And as for Siena's ranking, they were ranked at number 9 to start things off.
And there's one prediction that has held true since the very beginning. Canisius was picked last in the preseason poll, and currently the Griffins are 0-10.
Yeah, they haven't won a game dating back to last season either. So it's been ever since their loss in the MAAC semifinals last year. So the first 10 games of the season for them haven't gone the way they anticipated.
LeFew to the top of the key, lost the ball. Fritz has got it. Foot race to the cup. Yuri goes upstairs, flushes it down with 2 hands, and there's the horn at the half. The Griffs with a steal and score. Yuri Fritz. The lob underneath for Akpo, throws it down over the top of the defense. 77-61 the score. Dinkins can walk over the timeline, and that will do it. Unless you will hold for the final 12. It'll be tomorrow at 6:30 in the quarterfinal. Canisius against Quinnipiac.
What do you think is going to happen with the MAAC going forward? Do you see anybody moving and shaking at all?
I mean, we've discussed this before. I mean, polls can go a lot of different ways, but I think for how the season started, it's definitely been steps in the right direction for a few teams so far. I mean, Marist has been pretty consistently good so far at 6-2. Marist and Quinnipiac, you see them at the slots that they were projected to be, but keep in mind, this could all change at any point in the season. I mean, after all, we are only 2 games into the MAAC play so far this season, but we see teams starting things off, and we have a pretty good idea of where they're going to be. So far, we have a few 0-2 teams. I mean, St. Peter's is ranked at number 5 to start things off, and they've lost their first 2 games in MAAC play, but things could all change. I mean, Siena, they've defied a lot of people's expectations so far.
Who do you think is going to bow out of the MAAC tournament? Is now the best 10 teams, so the bottom 3 do not make it?
I mean, so far it seems that, Canisius would be a pretty good bet not to make it in based on how they've started the season. Not saying that they can't turn things around. Looking back at the poll, the bottom 4 teams were Manhattan, Mount St. Mary's, Canisius, and Sacred Heart. So you look at teams like those that have maybe either started out okay to mid-lane, they could fall on the side of really bad and then potentially be caught out. So it could be one of those 4 teams, or we could see a surprise.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you for your insight. And that is what the MAAC polls look like currently. And obviously, it's still December, so we got a while. We still have January and February to get through, but I'm looking to do something like this again as we get closer to the MAAC tournament.
Hello, it's MLG Dude coming to you in 60 FPS. It's the holiday season now, and with that being said, take time to be kind to everybody. Even the people that you may not know or just don't like in general. I know me, I got a lot of enemies. But give a gift. Hand something to somebody. It could be as simple as a Christmas card, a friendly gesture, a text message, maybe a YouTube video. Maybe if they're into watching YouTube videos, you can share them a link to one of your favorite videos and encourage them to like it too. Or share some of your favorite sports teams. You never know. You may be a Detroit Lions fan, and you just met a Detroit Lions fan who happens to have Jared Goff's jersey. You know, there's a lot of rough stuff going on in this world now in 2024, so just be kind. That's all I got.
All right, time for the MAAC report. It's a bit of a shorter one because of college finals. But the men still all played each other again as the MAAC opening weekend concluded on December 8th. Rider was the only team that didn't play, as they already played on December 4th. They still played Stony Brook later in the week after finals. They lost to them 55-72. Manhattan's other MAAC game of the week was Marist. They lost 75-82. And St. Peter's losing to the Iona Gales 63-72. Aside from losing to Siena, Canisius also lost to Maine. The Canisius Golden Griffins are now 0-11. Fairfield lost to Mount St. Mary's in a very high-scoring game that ended in a Stags loss, 94-101. Meanwhile, Quinnipiac beat Sacred Heart 83-73. Merrimack played Niagara, beating them 80-62. Merrimack also made the Western New York trip, much like Siena. And Merrimack then played Boston University, beating them by 3 points. The Mount St. Mary's men played the Catholic Clash against Loyola, Maryland. However, they lost 69-77. And Niagara played the St. Francis Red Flash, beating them 69-66. As for the women's side, Rider played FDU and lost 54-62, and then played Stonehill, beating them 65-53. Manhattan and Canisius getting a bye. St. Peter's playing Pitt, losing 51-59, and then beating Long Island 51-37. Fairfield getting a victory over the Big East's Villanova, coached by Denise Dillon. They beat them 74-71. And Quinnipiac soundly beating the Yale women by 26 points. Marist and Mount St. Mary's, as well as Niagara, also getting byes during the week. Merrimack playing the Providence Friars, losing 44-62. Iona losing to UMass Lowell. And Sacred Heart losing to Seton Hall and beating Post. Also, starting with this video and continuing when conference play begins for good, I will be recapping the players of the week for the MAAC conference. Our first pair during the first weekend of conference play includes Adam Bud Clark of Merrimack and Will Sidner of Manhattan. Clark led Merrimack in scoring both of its MAAC wins. He scored 22 points and 18 at the Merrimack win over Niagara, 40 points combined. Sidner, who is a freshman from the Bronx, had a 1-1 start for MAAC play, but he still had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 blocks in their win over St. Peter's. And then during the Marist game, he had 17 points. All right, jam-packed week for the Saints ahead. The Saints are playing 5 teams all at home in total. The women start the week with the game against Binghamton over at the UHY Center. Should be a doable game for them. An interesting game coming up for the Franciscan Cup this year. Siena playing their rival St. Bonaventure, located in Olean, New York. The St. Bonaventure Bonnies beat the Saints last year on campus in a game that was marred by one of the Saints' worst point losses at 33. The Saints trying to wrestle the cup back away from the Bonnies after winning them again in 2022. The women then have MAAC play opening up. They'll be taking on Niagara and Canisius, both making the trip over to Albany, while the men wrap up their home game stand of the year 2024 when they play Holy Cross. And you know what? I have to give it to Gerry McNamara and Terry Primm for staying resilient. Gerry McNamara has done a lot to repair Siena men's basketball and give it back some of the strength that it once had. And we are now at a critical moment here at Siena College as we enter the holidays and conference play is upon us, and pretty soon we'll be halfway through the season, believe it or not. The men still have a few things to work on. The women still have a few things to work on, but that's just how it is with college basketball. You want to be the best version of yourselves when March comes around. And as for this channel, well, Nick and Ben said it earlier in the video, but we indeed have upgraded to the iPhone 16 Pro. I'm actually filming with it right now, and yeah, it was a deal from my Verizon carrier that I could switch out the phone in favor of a brand new one. And it worked perfectly because the 10R is starting to become a dinosaur, and eventually Apple will stop supporting updates for it come 2025. I'll play around with this a bit more, but until then, you'll see better quality and better picture to the uploads. All right, to conclude, a tribute to the late, great Louis Orr. Yes, much like Gerry McNamara, Louis Orr got his start at Syracuse. He was part of Jim Boeheim's inaugural recruiting class in 1976. He played there all 4 years, eventually going on to an 8-year NBA career, where he played for the New York Knicks alongside the great Patrick Ewing. Eventually, Orr went into the coaching world. In 1996, he returned to his alma mater to coach aside Jim Boeheim, and eventually, much like Gerry McNamara, Siena hired him up in 2000 for his first head coaching job. Orr was only at Siena for a season, and then eventually he went to Seton Hall and Bowling Green, and he stopped coaching in 2014 to take a break. His time at Siena was not without its impact, as he was the head coach for Carmen Massarello in his only season there. Carm eventually graduated from Siena in 2001, was the director of operations under Fran McCaffrey, and he was head coach at Siena until this very year. Unfortunately, Louis Orr passed away from a battle with cancer on December 15, 2022. His NBA stats include the 1983, 1984, and 1988 playoffs while at the Knicks. While he was at Siena, he guided the Saints to a 20-11 record, continuing their success they had under head coach Paul Hewitt before he left. And when he was at Seton Hall, he went to the NIT first round, and he got as far as the round of 32 in 2004. Siena paid tribute to Orr a few days after his passing at their Franciscan Cup game where they beat St. Bonaventure 76-70. To close our video out, here's what Jim Boeheim said about Louis Orr when he passed away.
Louis Orr was a great player. Make no mistake about it, he was a great player. I remember Gail Catlett went to West Virginia. He was at Cincinnati, didn't recruit Louis, and West Virginia came in here, and Gail came in here, and Louis had 20 and 20. After the game, I think Gail said, "He's pretty good, that guy." I said, "Yeah, he's a pretty good deal." But he's the best off the court that any program has ever had. I had him and Hal Cohen and Roosevelt Bowie in my first class. They won 100 games, which wasn't done at that time because you didn't play that many. They went to every class. They were early at every practice. They never did anything wrong, ever. I mean, ever. And we didn't have academic tutoring. We didn't have any of that stuff. They had, A's, mostly B's. And Louis Orr never changed in his whole life. He was good to people. Everybody.